The place, St. John's River near Jacksonville, Florida. When his lure reaches a school of bass, a yearling strikes hard, fights, and leaps from the water in a vain attempt to shake off this thing which is strangely attacking him. Slowly but surely, he's drawn to the boat, lifted from the water, and the hooks are removed from his jaw. He is released so he can live, grow, and fight again. The lure is cast and reeled across the bottom where the school of bass is located. From out of nowhere, another yearling feeding in shallow water near the shoreline strikes hard. When leaping fails, he twists, turns, dives, and calls on all his strength to win. The man is Buck Perry, nationally famous fisherman and fishing consultant. This is his story of a fisherman's paradise. Jacksonville, Florida, the nation's largest city geographically, is ideally located so both freshwater and saltwater fishermen can enjoy their favorite sport within minutes of their home. Down Florida way, they have a saying, if you fish for fun, you can have more fun fishing at Jacksonville. Trolling begins almost at the dock. Seems these saltwater fighters will hit lots of different kinds of lures, and they fight right down to the gaff. Dolphin, albacore, amberjack, king mackerel, Spanish mackerel, bonita, tarpon, marlin, sailfish, the list goes on for great lengths. Jacksonville's offshore fishing has always been great. More than 200 varieties of fish abound in these waters, and fishing goes on year-round. During the peak offshore fishing season, which lasts for about 9 months of the year, on a single day, as many as 300 fishing boats may clear the river mouth soon after sunup. King-size sharks are found in these waters, and 5 Jacksonville shark clubs are devoted to killing hundreds of them each year. After a 2-hour battle, the shark fisherman displays his grisly trophy, a wicked set of teeth. When the boats return to the docks for unloading, one sees a wide variety of fish. Amberjack, giant cobia, king mackerel, and bonita are caught trolling. Others, like these red snapper, are caught bottom fishing. When an angler catches one that requires 2 men to lift onto the scales, he's really got something. Red snapper provide delicious meat for gourmet dishes. Who wouldn't be proud of a catch like that? Or this. Every time a party boat docks, the proud fishermen lug their big strings ashore. Looks like the women were the real winners on this trip. Party boats carry as many as 35 or 40 fishermen. Tackle and bait are usually furnished and the rates are nominal. Out-of-state visitors often prefer party boats or charter boats, safe and beautiful, manned by the skilled fishing crews to see that guests get the most fun from their offshore trips. About 100 sailfish are caught each summer. They move north to Jacksonville in the spring and return to warmer waters in the fall. Half of the fun of fishing is dragging a big cobia up the ramp with everybody looking on. Everywhere one goes, he finds people fishing, from docks on small creeks, to wading sandy beaches and casting into deep water, to fishing from seawalls or any place they can wet a hook. Some of the fishing camps have docks from which guests may fish, and it's rarely ever the fishermen get skunked. The fish are everywhere. Bridge fishing. At Jacksonville Beach, a fishing pier extends 1,000 feet into the ocean. When fish are so big it takes two to hold them, it's really something to write home about. Jacksonville has lots of facilities for fishermen, charter boats by the dozen when the summer season is on, and numerous clean fish camps with bait, tackle, boats, motors, or anything the fisherman needs or desires. Jacksonville, the bold new city, set its sights 20 years ahead. First step toward national prestige, a consolidated government. Jacksonville has long been known as the hub city of the Southeast for insurance, banking, communications, transportation, and industry. A water beautification program was inaugurated recently. Tall buildings began to dot the skyline, and more were in the planning stage. Jacksonville is the overnight distribution port for 24 million people. A busy seaport, the St. John's brought in ships with foreign cars, bananas, coffee, and other products. Increased facilities for a crowded waterfront are in the planning stage. 3 shipyards are filled to capacity year-round. Climate and recreational advantages helped some industries decide to move to Jacksonville. Jacksonville's paper mills were turning out millions of tons of craft paper each year. Florida's pine tree farms were hard-pressed to fill their hungry jaws. New building construction soared, and the population doubled itself in 2 decades. Additional sewage lines were needed in many parts of the city to utilize to the fullest capacity a new sewage disposal plant, operating at a fraction of its capability. This was a great stride forward in control of water pollution. Civic leaders recognized the time to prepare for the increased traffic burden due to growth was then, not after crowded conditions created problems. Construction of new improved access roads and bridges was begun. Interstate 10 and 95 were under construction, and the city's 66 miles of expressway systems needed to be further expanded. Although there are several fine golf courses and other recreation facilities, these would be inadequate 20 years hence. Tennis courts, both public and private, abounded in the area, but more would be needed. The same expansion would be required in playgrounds, swimming pools, parks, picnic areas, and boat launching ramps. A 1967 addition to the Gator Bowl increased the seating capacity to more than 70,000. One problem that had plagued both fishermen and boaters was the abundance of water hyacinths on the St. Johns, which clogged waterways, hindered boating, and covered some of the best fishing spots. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, in conjunction with the state of Florida, had begun a tedious task of eliminating these pesky aquatic plants from the St. Johns. Using airboats, the engineers had inaugurated a spraying operation which gradually cleared the waters. The biggest problem they faced was keeping the plants under control. Legend has it that many years ago, an American seaman saw the hyacinths growing in Japan. He brought some home to America. Through the years, they have produced a multi-million-dollar problem by choking off the waterways. Capable of reproducing itself every 7 days, the hyacinth is a tough foe and requires constant spraying. The special chemical formula used is not harmful to fish or wildlife, but the plants begin to die in about 3 hours after spraying. Jacksonville's waters, cleared of hyacinths and open for boating and fishing, were the city's greatest natural resource. To get full value from them, a fishing consultant, E.L. Buck Perry of Hickory, North Carolina, was called in to prepare for the day when 1 million potential fishermen would want to know where to find the fish and how to catch them. When Perry and his associates from Fishing Consultants of America arrived, their first move was to talk with boat dealers, marina operators, camp and resort owners and operators, and the fishermen themselves for information about the river. Folks sometimes catch bass off that point, but not many of them fished lately. Bluegill fishermen tell Perry their story of good days and bad, big fish and little. Mostly the fishermen go out here and turn right. When the spawn is over, they quit fishing. Even little girls fishing for bluegills were asked for their opinions. When Perry asked this camp operator where the best fishing was, he said, "You catch bass right off this point to the right as you leave the creek." And so it went, all up and down the river. Perry knew the first thing he needed was a series of maps showing the underwater structures of the river bottom and places where the fish were most likely to be caught. The migration routes from deep water to shallow water need to be known, and the breaks in the structures where the fish stopped or paused en route. Thus began the task of mapping 60 square miles of the St. Johns River, so Jacksonville fishermen and out-of-town visitors could enjoy consistently good catches of almost any type fish they desired. Normally, fish prefer to live in the deepest water available, leaving this sanctuary once or twice a day to feed in the shallows. The older, larger fish are reluctant to come into waters any shallower than 8 to 10 feet. At this depth, they usually stop at a break in the underwater structure. Perry knew he must find these breaks and map them if future fishermen were to be successful at lunker fishing. In many cases, the break in the structure was found 1,000 yards or more from the shore. Perry was joined by Terry O'Malley and Vic Saunders of Chicago, two of the nation's finest fishermen and highly skilled structure mappers who had worked with him for a number of years. They agreed on a plan of covering the waters in the most efficient manner, and all went to work. The maps they would make would lead fishermen to the fish for many years to come. It looked like it would be a long summer ahead. Names like Ragged Point, Smith Point, Hallows Cove, Doctor's Lake, Beauclair Point, Gracie Point, and dozens of others became familiar to the mappers as they spent long, hot days tediously seeking the best fishing structures. Depth indicators speeded the task and made it much easier to find the underwater breaks they were seeking. After mapping a specific area, it was necessary to check and see what fish were present and how many. This catch contained 9 different species, including black bass, red bass, catfish, bluegills, red bellies, jack crevalle, and others. O'Malley and Saunders now knew the fishermen who follow their maps will probably wind up their day with a nice stringer of whatever type they fish for. Using all kinds of baits, both natural, live bait, and lures, the fishermen determined if the fish would take all or none of them. Here Vic lands a catfish and Terry a black bass. Both men were fishing with worms. They're fishing a structure break they had mapped earlier. Vic fished the Takoi area and brought in this string of black bass that popped the eyes of all the fishermen present. Five months later, the mapping is finally finished. The boys decide it's time to take a day off and fish for fun. Terry hits a big one and starts off a wild afternoon of lunker bass fishing they will all remember for a long time. He was right on the break when you got him. And Buck gets his first bass of the day. Terry sets the hook and another big lunker heads for the sky to shake and fight. While Terry's landing his bass, Buck gets another strike. Terry's is an easy 6 pounds. Buck's bass looks like he will go 8 pounds at least. Vic, fishing alone, lands a little one. Two big fish on the stringer, but it's only the beginning. is a real trophy bass. Buck Perry points out that when you take these big lunkers out of the St. Johns River, you aren't hurting conservation at all. These fish would probably just die of old age from lack of harvesting, says Perry. He conservatively estimates there are thousands like this one dying out there every year. What Jacksonville needs is more fishermen on the water. If they'll just use the structure maps to find the fish and then exercise patience until the movement occurs, each fisherman should consistently catch more fish than ever before. It is my opinion that Jacksonville needs the help of a lot of outside fishermen because there are so many fish in some of these places that the local fishermen just can't keep them under control. Florida bass grow bigger and faster than in most areas, and there are probably some record bass out there right now just waiting to be caught. This is the sort of stringer pull most fishermen dream about. Another favorite of the St. Johns River fishermen is the black crappie, called speckled perch by local fishermen. Perry and his men found them suspended above the same underwater structures used by bass. But they found the crappie most easily caught near old pilings in deep water a good way from shore. This grandfather and grandson team is having a ball, taking their share of crappies from some of these old St. John's pilings. Crappie as big as 2 pounds are frequently caught. Many kinds of saltwater fish are caught miles from the ocean up the St. Johns River. This 6-pound Jack Crevalle put up a fight the fishermen will long remember. Sometimes the problem is with the fishermen and not the fish. Charlie finds it easier to net the lure than the fish. Charlie's next bass stands on its tail and throws the lure back in the boat. The Jacksonville Naval Air Station provides a fitting backdrop for this young lady catching, appropriately enough, a ladyfish. Some call these fighters the poor man's tarpon. This time, Charlie's hooked a chain pickerel. Ease him in, Charlie. Whoops. Look, Charlie, even the kids can do it. Well, it looks like Charlie's got another one on the line. Easy does it, Charlie. The net, Charlie. Get the net. Well, you finally got one. A nice 2-pounder, but no record breaker. No matter what kind of fishing you want to do, whether on the broad Atlantic or fishing the neighborhood creek with a family, Jacksonville has great fishing. Well, there you are, fishermen. Fish for fun? Have more fun fishing at Jacksonville, in the beautiful St. Johns River, and in the fabulous offshore waters. Jacksonville, truly a fisherman's paradise.